What up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt Wyatt. So, I'm going to be reviewing all the X-Men movies leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine that's going to be hitting in theaters on July 26th. This movie can't get here fast enough. The trailers and the marketing have been increased my excitement level, and it's just so surreal that we're going to see Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool in the same film together. A film that we never thought we were going to get because we've been begging to see the two of them together ever since the first Deadpool movie. And it's crazy that now that we're finally getting it. But at the time, we all thought that Hugh Jackman was going to be done playing Wolverine after his film Logan that came out several years ago. But now we live in a world where anything is possible because we have the multiverse aspect. They have the ability to bring back the Marvel legacy characters in the MCU, and it's such a great time to be alive as a fan. And I will review some MCU movies and probably some outside of the X-Men films for Marvel as well. But now I'm going to take you back to the original X-Men film that came out in 2000. Before that, I grew up watching the 1990s animated series before the original X-Men film came out in the cinema. I grew up loving it. I was very entertained. I love the characters. And to see it have live action come to life is just crazy because we lived in a world where we didn't have a lot of comic book movies coming out every year. And this was coming from the fallout of the major disaster of Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin that became a major flop that nearly killed the genre. A lot of people said that Blade was the movie that really saved it. I had to respectfully disagree. Sure, it became a hit, but let's be honest, 99% of the casual movie-going audience at the time when this movie came out, they thought they were going into watching a action vampire flick with Wesley Snipes in it. They didn't know that this was a Marvel movie until years later, until they had to do their research and like, oh wow, this is actually a Marvel film. But it did give the studio an idea that we can take these characters and try to make them work and bring them into our world today and actually make a good movie out of it. And they got Bryan Singer, who is the director of the film. Now, I know there's been a big controversy with Bryan Singer, but I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to separate the artist from the art in his vision and his direction. And what he did with this movie was absolutely fantastic because at the time I didn't really know what this X-Men really was about. I didn't know the aspect of it. I didn't know the whole lore. It's essentially more of a metaphor of the Civil Rights Act, except that now it's mutants versus humans, and it tackles the more of the prejudice and discrimination with and I thought what Bryan Singer did, he actually made that work and very believable. He took this outrageous concept from the source materials and try to make it more grounded and make it really believable to the audience. And I thought he did a great job of telling that story. And this is more of a political character driven drama. And it's not an action spectacle superhero movie. It's more of a political film with these comic book characters in it. And I thought it worked. It was amazing, especially when we get into the scene in Washington during the Capitol when Jean Grey, who is one of the OG X-Men characters, tries to debate against Senator Kelly, who Senator Kelly's been trying to push the Mutant Registration Act, and he believes that they need to know what they're capable of and what they can do, and they have to register as U.S. citizens because the humans they hate and fear them. They think they're dangerous of what they can really do, and they thought they might be a threat into mankind. And I thought that the debate between the two of them was so compelling. What Bryan Singer did right was the casting choice, especially with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, which I thought Hugh Jackman was amazing in the movie. He's the first actor who played a comic book character for over 20 years and never once got recast. When you think of Wolverine, you think of Hugh Jackman. But at the time when he was announced to play Wolverine, a lot of people criticized him a lot. If they did the announcement today, for as we have like social media and content creators and influencers voicing their opinion, I'm pretty sure that they probably would have gotten a lot of backlash because the hardcore comic book fans would say he looks nothing like the character, he looks nothing like from the comic books. But then when people saw the still photos of him and they saw the promo, they were completely on board and they were all in. And I thought what Hugh Jackman did really, he really embodied of who Wolverine is. And fun fact that most of you don't know that uh that Russell Crowe was up for the role to play Wolverine at the time before Hugh Jackman, but he had scheduling conflict, so Bryan Singer went and got Hugh Jackman. He was coming off of a musical theater called Oklahoma. He was not a big star at the time until he got the cast as Wolverine. And how crazy it would have been if Russell Crowe got to play the Wolverine character. I'm pretty sure that if Russell Crowe got the character, he would have crushed it, of course, and his career would probably took in a different direction because he was coming off of the movie Gladiator that won an Oscar. I thought Hugh Jackman did a better job of embodying the character of Wolverine. And another couple of casting choice that Bryan Singer got right was Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier and Ian McKellen's Magneto. Because Charles Xavier and Magneto had a different idea of how they want to handle this whole thing because they are both after the same thing. They want mutants to live and not be and hide in the shadows and not be discriminated. With Charles Xavier is all about finding ways for humans and mutants to live together, and Magneto, even though he wants the mutants to live free, but he believes that they are the next stage of human evolution and the humans are the subspecies. And he believes that humanity will never accept the mutants for what they are and who they are. And before that, we meet up with the younger Magneto in the opening of the film when he was in the Nazi concentration camp from his parents during World War II, and it was during the Holocaust. And we see Magneto's parents get taken away from him, especially his mom. And we see him like freaking uses powers, and he has the ability to control magnetic field, and seeing him try to rip the gate open was so insane. It was so good and a great performance by the young kid who played Magneto, even though he had no dialogue. But after that opening, it really sets the tone for what the movie is. And I thought that Ian McKellen, who played Magneto, was incredible in the film. Because if you really think about it, they really made Magneto and Charles Xavier. Charles Xavier is the Martin Luther King Jr. figure, and Magneto is Malcolm X. It's true. If you really look back and think about it and start to put two and two together, it makes perfect sense. They both had this. They're both after the same thing, but with just different ideas. But Magneto always respected Charles Xavier. He always respected him. They've been more like brothers. He would never try to harm him unless he gets in the way for his grand plan. And he warned him, like, "Hey, I will bring you hope, but just to warn you, don't get in my way."
I will bring you hope, old friend. And I ask only one thing in return. Don't get in my way.
Oh, I love the scene between him and Magneto because Magneto is very pessimistic and he's very misguided. But he and Charles Xavier, he can be very naive and optimistic, but and very hopeful, and he believes that there's still hope for humanity. No matter how long it takes, he still is waiting for hope. And I thought that Patrick Stewart really embodied of who Charles Xavier is. And he was coming off of the Star Trek The Next Generation, and he played Captain Picard. And I knew him from this from that show in the movies before he was cast as Charles Xavier, and I thought he did a great job. And I couldn't believe that they went and got him. I was like, yeah, this is definitely the perfect fit for him. Ian McKellen was just more of a theater actor. He was not a big star at the time, and after his debut as Magneto, he was playing Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and that's what he became a major star at the time. And it was kind of an interesting idea that we meet up with Rogue, who's played by Anna Paquin, and we see that she has the ability to drain people's life force just by touching them and nearly killing them. And we start to see the terror in her eyes when she made out with her boyfriend and harmed him, inadvertently harmed him. And you start to see the terror in her eyes, and she runs away from home. And she's been on the run for several months, and she meets up with Wolverine in a cage fighting match. And I thought how they meet up and how it was so good. I loved how they were able to build that relationship between the two of them. And my one of my favorite scenes is when Rogue was asking about the claws and about when they come out, do they still hurt? And Wolverine's like, every time.
When they come out, does it hurt?
Every time.
And he has a dog tag, and somehow there's a lot more to his backstory than we don't know when we meet up with Wolverine. That there's more history to him, and there's a lot more depths of him. After being attacked by Sabretooth and getting ambushed and being rescued by a Storm and Cyclops, they're now in the mansion where they're at the school for the gifted that Charles Xavier has built for mutants who are frightened alone, and they need to be educated and they need to feel safe from the outside world. And I love how they were able to build the whole environment for the school for the gifted. It felt so grounded and real and so good. And we find out that Wolverine has amnesia. He has no memory from his past life. And now that Charles Xavier is offering him for guidance to help him piece together of what he has lost. And they found out that his skeleton is made out of metal, is made out of adamantium that is essentially indestructible, but he doesn't know what happened to him. And according to Jean Grey, no one was able to no one can survive that procedure to put those adamantium in other bones. But the only thing that kept him surviving was his mutation. He has the ability to regenerate. He has the healing factor. So essentially, he can't die, and that's how he was able to survive it. But he doesn't know who did this to him, and he starts to have nightmares from his memories that he had forgotten. And we see that he is being experimented on and getting injected by the adamantium in the system. But one thing you got to understand, do not go near Wolverine while he's sleeping and having these big nightmares, because he is very jumpy and he will pop out the claws and kill you without thinking twice about it. And the way he stabbed Rogue right in front of him, oh my God, that shit was so rough to watch. And we see that she has the ability to absorb people's gifts for a short while, especially when she borrowed Wolverine's healing factor to heal her stab wounds. But if she held, and according to Charles Xavier, if she held on long enough, she could definitely kill Wolverine and take his powers permanently. Because if you look back on the animated show of the X-Men series, and I believe that's happened in the comic books as well, but I don't know. I've not read the comic book. But with Rogue, who was the OG X-Men character of the team, she had two different mutant abilities that she kept permanently: super strength and flight. And when I watched the animated show again, I start to understand where she got it from. She got it from Captain Marvel that she killed in the animated show, and that's how she was able to keep those powers permanently and nothing else. They definitely raised the stakes. The action was pretty good. I loved the set pieces. I loved the fight scene between Wolverine and Mystique, which Mystique has the ability to transform into anyone. And I thought that their fight scene was so well choreographed. Loved it. Yeah, it's not going to be an action-driven movie. It's more of a character-driven film with the political drama to it. And when we meet up with Cyclops, who is part of who is the leader of the X-Men, I really liked it. I really liked James Marsden's portrayal as Cyclops. I thought he did a really good job, even though I was very disappointed throughout the years of how they mistreated the live action cinematic Cyclops character, because I loved Cyclops from the animated show of the 1990s X-Men series. He's always been my favorite character, of course. He's always been the Boy Scout, and he's always been the leader of the team. This one, I liked him first time around. The first time around, I thought really did a decent job, and the banter with him and Wolverine, he cannot stand Wolverine, and Wolverine cannot stand Cyclops. They're both at each other's throats at the time, and yeah, they definitely stayed true to that. Sabretooth, to me, is doesn't really have a lot of character development. I wish he had a little bit more development. He was more of Magneto's henchman, but but if you look back on the comic books and the animation, Wolverine and Sabretooth had a lot of history. Here's the thing with Magneto: if Wolverine tries to pick a fight with Magneto, he can stop him instantly because he has all the metal in his bones, and he can definitely control Wolverine. No matter how indestructible Wolverine is, Magneto will always find a way to stop him. That's how badass and ruthless Magneto really is. Overall, I really love this movie. My favorite scene of the whole movie is when Magneto and Charles Xavier were playing a chess game together in a plastic prison for Magneto that they built for Magneto after he was being captured by the government. And their conversation between him and Charles was so good. Magneto tells him that, does it ever wake you up in the middle of the night, the feeling that someone will come after you and your children? What do you do when you wake up to that? And Charles is like, I feel the great swarm of pity of souls looking for trouble.
What do you do when you wake up to that?
I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul who comes to that school looking for trouble.
Oh man, that scene was so good. I loved it. But Charles is still going to look for hope for Magneto and still going to look for hope for humanity. But Magneto knows that there's going to be a war coming. If you haven't seen the original X-Men movie, you definitely should. I thought that this movie is definitely incredible. It really became a big hit at the box office. It literally gave Columbia Pictures and Sony to make Spider-Man movie with Sam Raimi. And then more studios took more chances to make more comic book movies into live action. We got to give credit to where it all started. Now, what did you think of the original X-Men movie? Did you love it or did you not like it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you leave a like and make sure you subscribe to my channel for more content and turn on the bell notifications so that you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. So I hope you guys have a great day, great evening, wherever you're from. And if you want to follow my social media links, the link tree will be down in the description down below where you can follow my social media platforms on there. I hope you guys stay safe and take care.